Okay, it is a Tuesday, 9:28 a.m., October the 26th, and this is the main watch list, but I'm going to take the last few minutes before the market opens to just take a look and see if there's anything else that I missed. But any of these, like this one, IFXY, anything on the other watch list that looks very clean, I will consider for a morning panic bounce play. If it just shows that nice price action, BTZI, maybe not today, but at some point I might be interested in trying a short setup like the number 6 pattern. Here's a panic, here's a bounce. In theory you risk off of this level, but it can also try to break out. I'm just going to watch it for now. If it does something clean, just like with morning panic bounce plays, I'll consider it. IOUS, same case. AIAD, this one's a runner. Maybe some kind of higher low setup off of VWAP, that would be cool. GBHL, ideally it can continue the uptrend, and CYBO is just going to be a watch. It's not something I can trade, at least I don't think I can trade it. Let's see if we have any clean morning panic bounce plays today. I could be looking at listed stocks too, but I honestly just want to zone in on OTCs and try to get good with that. But if there is something clean in the listed stock market, I'll have to consider that as well. Alright, it is 9:49, and I had one attempted buy, I didn't go through, it didn't get filled, and then one trade, but this one unfortunately didn't work out, and I had to cut losses. There was unfortunately also some slippage here, but let's go over it. NSAV, I don't really like the drop, but it did drop significantly from 60 cents, and it got as low as what is this, like 50 cents here, and at 9:35 I was interested in it right about here. I had an order at 519. Unfortunately, I just didn't get filled, and it did continue the uptrend. I didn't want to hit the ask because the ask would have been right at VWAP, and then, you know, for example, if I get executed there and then it actually doesn't work, it downtrends some more, then I'm in real big trouble, and that would really stink. But it did work out, you know, kind of choppy price action, but it did hold this level of VWAP, and then it did continue to trend later. So 56, and then an entry at 51.9. That would have been really profitable, really nice. Maybe a more realistic sell at 55, but 52 to 55 is still pretty nice in terms of percent gain. And then I did get a trade with SIRC, but I probably should have been more cautious with the way it was trading. I knew to be a little cautious because it doesn't have like necessarily, this should be like a 100-day chart or a 200-day chart actually. Doesn't have the best you know, daily chart, and I think I should have probably have traded a smaller size for that reason. But I did like how when I was considering it, at 940 was my entry right here. Wow, was it really right when it failed? That's the first time that's really happened. But yeah, my entry was at 940, and I kind of liked it because I thought, alright, well, you know, if it doesn't work out, I should be able to cut the trade quickly. Unfortunately, that wasn't really the case. I did get like a partial fill. I only lost like $9 ultimately, but you know, I would have lost only like $1.50 had I have gotten my full position out when I try to cut losses quickly. But yeah, I was in at 940, and then once it kind of broke this little range here, which was the low at 47.94, give or take, or I guess 48.01 if it says that. As soon as I saw that range kind of just crack, I immediately, you know, put a sell order, and I did get 200 shares out, and then the rest was near this bottom range right here, unfortunately. And now it has actually broken this part too, so probably because it doesn't have the best long-term chart to play off of. Maybe I had a, you know, missed opportunity with NSAV. I got perhaps salty and I tried here. The drop wasn't that bad. It's not really clean, but it did look, you know, better than some of the other ones. It did look better than NSAV, but the range I thought was much nicer on NSAV, so I thought it was worth it. And this one did drop from 56 to 48, so it's not like it wasn't a bad drop, and it can try to reverse at some point. I'll probably just leave it alone because it doesn't have the best daily chart. Yeah, so I tried selling. I did sell some, right, and then the rest, most of the shares was down there, unfortunately. If not, it would have been just a tiny, maybe $1.50 loss. That's fine though. I think that was an okay attempt, a good learning lesson, and there was distance from VWAP. Now, for right now, it's 9:53, so if I go by that rule, I won't be considering morning panic bounce plays, give or take after 10. I will be interested in AIAD for like a VWAP higher low thing. Another one is PUGE. I might actually be trying it right now. These are the things I have in mind, as well as AITX, I think. Oh, this one's actually not looking so good. That's what I have in mind. Maybe NSAV for like maybe a higher low off of this low. That could be nice. And wow, SIRC's at 44. Imagine not cutting losses quickly. That's what I have for right now. Yeah, unfortunately this one didn't work out. NSAV, at least I was on the right track. I didn't get executed, but you know, I'll start to be looking at other setups now. Alright, it is 10 a.m. Just want to make a quick update. As for PUGE, it did kind of work here, but you know, the range is not that nice, and the drop was okay, but it's not putting up a higher high, at least right now. Maybe I'll try to consolidate and then put up a higher high from here, which would be ideal. But if it tries to drop here so quickly, so soon, with all these sellers on the ask, I might not consider this for that VWAP higher low setup, just because of the level 2 not looking that clean. But hey, I saw a big million share bidder there. Maybe if it looks clean, I might consider it, but I just don't like how quickly it's already downtrending. It can try to hold itself together and put up a higher low, sure, but I would have liked it if it made like a higher high or even a double top. Instead it got to this 145 level. BTZI had this nice drop, and now it's looking like that number 6 pattern for sure. Here's that drop, here's the bounce number 5, and now number 6 is a short at the top of the range. I didn't necessarily short, you know, here risking 14. I think that would have been kind of crazy. Maybe something I can develop later with more experience, but I will be interested if this thing has a significant spike and risk the day high perhaps, as well as that other one, SIRC, although not really that ideal because, you know, it's not a really good long-term chart. But if it has some kind of spike maybe near the highs, I can consider that. That's what I have right now. It's just maybe too short potential setups. AIAD isn't really playing off of VWAP, but this one can also continue the uptrend too. That's what I have in mind right now. Maybe two potential short setups if they happen to happen, which they don't have to. Alright, it is 10:33, and I don't think I'll make another update until later in the day, maybe after the markets have closed. I don't want to make the same mistake I did Friday, where, you know, I was salty because I had that trade that didn't work out with TONR. It was just a $4 loss, but because of commissions trading on E-Trade, it ended up being a $20 loss. And that really annoyed with me, and then I traded maybe DW, ACW, not the best as I could have, and then I tried those 3 trades later in the afternoon, and that was pretty dumb. But you know, with all that in mind, I'm going to try to make today a higher low off of Friday. And you know, in that sense, yeah, PUGE didn't really work out because I think there are just too many people selling on the ask. Now, I'm not saying it can't get back to VWAP, it totally can, but look how long it's taking compared to a quick drop here, bounce, quick drop here, bounce, right? And this is now taking too long. It could also fail, but you know, it's not the quick move I would want it to be. And I'm not trying to be in this trade in an uphill battle, just trying to knock off everybody with large size on the ask. I'd rather not. SIRC, I was interested in it if it could have maybe bounced back near its highs, but it's not probably going to do that. And I also have to take into consideration it didn't work out in my long setup. Doesn't mean it's going to work out in a short setup either, because of the fact that, you know, it's like a, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like a dead pump. And you know, that's also why I should have also considered maybe trading just a smaller position in theory, because it wasn't you know, good in terms of the daily chart, but it was cleanish looking. I've seen that happen before on recent runners that are pretty dead in their run up, but they just have like a super clean morning panic bounce play for whatever reason with good range. This wasn't really an example of that. And yeah, maybe if it were to have done something and it was earlier in the pattern, I should have probably traded then that size that I traded today, and maybe consider the short setup too because it's more active. But I probably just I'm just gonna take the L here, and maybe I could have been able to have lost less if I would have gotten the entire position out. These 200 shares was at the same price that I was long. Like, it was just break even on these just by a little bit, right? And then that 800 shares was at the bottom at 4.7 right here. It did try again, but look, it just kept downtrending. So yeah, I'll just probably take the L here, learn a great lesson, and not try to do anything dumb. BTZI, I was interested in shorting it for like that number 6 pattern, but I mean, BTZI doesn't have volume anymore, doesn't look nice either, so that's pretty much why I haven't been able to consider shorting it. And even if I did get short here at the ask, I would probably just try to quickly flip it at the bid, because if it's that low volume, it could also have super low volume and break the day high. So I also had that in mind. NSAB was that nice morning panic bounce play. It was nothing else. At least this one is at a slight uptrend compared to SIRC, a slight uptrend. And as for AIAD, I did see this when it was trying to break out, right? Then it failed, and then I started looking at other charts. It literally worked like maybe 2 minutes later, right? It started a really uptrend. That's pretty incredible. I missed this one just because I saw it when it was trying to break out for the first time and it got rejected. But it actually worked out eventually. I don't know if I would have taken that or not, but this is a great example of selling when the first break candle forms. Just pretty cool move there. I did miss that one, but it's not really a setup I'm that good at, just random high day breakouts. But this one was pretty cool. Again, I tried seeing it, and it looks like it failed at that minute, but the next minute it did come back. I don't think I would be considering this. Maybe if it breaks this high now at 63, but I would probably consider a very small size. Other than that, probably nothing I'm going to trade, nothing else, but I think a lot of good lessons with SIRC. Alright, it is 10:54, and I did have a trend line here for AIAD. I didn't think it would follow it so perfectly, and that when it broke under the trend line, it just had this big sell-off. In theory, I could have been in at 51.2 right before, right here, 51.2, because it looked like it was trying to hold 51 very nicely, because a big wall of bidders started to show up at 51. And right now it's like a mental trade, just seeing if this thing could in theory work, and maybe break out of this recent wick here at 53.2. But I had an interest in it, but then we had like the big yuppie push of people just market bought it all the way up to 53, and that kind of annoyed me. I hate it when it does stuff like that. But I've learned now, especially with morning panic bounce plays, when it just has a drop and we have like this big yuppie push of people just market ordering this thing to the top, and then it comes all the way back down, a lot of them tend to work out eventually. So maybe the yuppies aren't that crazy, but they could have gotten a better price. And it did drop back towards 51.2, so I could have been in. And I just want to see if this thing can really work and just learn from it. It's just basically a big volume sell-off. I've traded some of these before, and yeah, this one looks like it's trying to do something. It might try to make a head and shoulders, shoulder, head, and then the shoulder. So maybe the distance here, which is like 2 lines, might be something it can try to do, which is possible, although maybe this might be the most it can do. We'll see. I'll make an update later. Ultimately, what happens here, I might be considering selling if I was in that position at 53, because of the fact that it might try to form a red candle there, and that would have been like $9. I would have made back what I lost, I guess. But yeah, this thing was a big volume sell-off. PUGE, nothing I'm interested in. It did try to touch VWAP, but the goal was for it to do more than just that. So I mean, what's the most they can do? If it could just do that It's not going to be very nice in terms of range, but it's cool that it did make a move there. VTZI looking a little sketchy, still sketchy. No interest in trying to consider shorting this. I would have liked it maybe if it was trading with more volume. That's interesting. It is failing, so I guess maybe my sell in theory at 53 wouldn't have been that bad. I'll continue to watch this and I'll make an update later. Okay, I think this will be the last update for a while. It is 11:19. I never considered really buying this. At one point, just for a joke, I thought, haha, I could get in at 43, and that was probably before the big red candle, right? 43 was at the ask, and I'll just risk this level right here, which would be, you know, like a it was like a $3 risk, something ridiculously small. I'm not really interested in it, even if I were to have taken that. I wouldn't have, because I, you know, need to take trading seriously. It was just a joke, but you know, at the end of the day, this thing is up from freaking 14 cents anyway. Well, not 14 cents, 1.4 cents, and I mean, this could be the ultimate bottom. It is like the time period. I thought maybe 11 a.m. bounce, 11 a.m. turnaround. Sometimes it does it at 11:30, but this isn't really an exact case scenario, because that works with stocks that just have like a morning panic and it keeps making new lows. This had a nice spike before it did all of this downtrending, so it's not necessarily the same, and it's not a shortable stock either. So I think it's just people who are just selling their shares. At least it's not shortable on Schwab. I did think about shorting it here. I didn't think about shorting it at the trend line. And then I thought about that head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulders when it was around here. But I would have been too busy thinking about selling my, in theory, trade if I were to have taken it at 51.2. And yeah, selling at the red candle in this case would have been really helpful. This thing can try to turn around at some point, but I'm just going to let it do whatever it wants. And yeah, I'll stop looking at the markets. As for the one SIRC, yeah, this looks a lot like a morning panic tsunami type stock, right? And eventually has a reversal. This one didn't do it until like 10, but you know, this is the pattern I'm going for when I talk about that tsunami panic setup. The one I traded with, I forgot the name of the stock. Yeah, I don't remember, but you know, that's something I am going forward. You know, considering trading more. It might have been BTZI, honestly, but yeah, there's just nothing going on, and pretty interesting price action. Maybe an inverse head and shoulders potential. That might not be bad, because then it's at least proving itself that it can put up a higher low. So yeah, I'll probably watch this for inverse head and shoulders, but you know, I won't really be that quick to trade it. I'll just probably continue to watch it. This thing can just, you know, be nothing more than a 3-day pump and just falls off a cliff too. Alright, it is 12:11, and the same way this thing failed when it broke the trend line here, this thing is trying to reverse now that it broke the trend line here. Potential inverse head and shoulder setup in the making. I'll still consider a small size, because you know, it's not the best daily chart, but it does show that it can move. I could have taken a trade here at 78, but I didn't have the thing ready. It kind of went really quickly, but you know, this could be a potential setup. I might not trade it, but it does look clean, as in the pattern is there, and the uptrend here isn't that bad. It might try to do more. It might not do inverse head and shoulders at all, but I will be watching this. Alright, it is 4:51, and I am here to call it off and see what has happened since. I'm down about what, $9? I think not as much as yesterday, but we're playing with pennies. Ultimately, I did try that setup with NSAV, and I didn't get filled. But this was a nice morning panic bounce play. I didn't get filled. I had that order attempt back near the market open, and I did get in SIRC. However, that one just traded horribly, and it had a daily chart that was much worse than NSAV. I might not really try to consider, just to learn from it, you know, a setup, a morning panic bounce play, if it's like way off into the end, unless it's something like for example, maybe CYBL, where it kind of tries again. Or maybe a better example would be maybe AITX, I believe. Yeah, like it had some kind of an uptrend, right? As for SIRC, that one was just playing around in the same range. It wasn't necessarily trying to make a move, although, you know, maybe if it was back here, it would have been a lot better for a morning panic bounce play. I probably should also go just a smaller size if it's a morning panic bounce play setup that isn't really at its prime moment on a daily chart. If it's a bit, you know, off to the side, it's not necessarily something I should trade with a larger size. I mean, it wasn't huge. It was like a $400 and something position, but $481 position. But you know, it's just the odds weren't in my favor. I did take it though because it did look somewhat clean in the morning, and it did get as low as 42. So it's a good thing I did cut losses, which was back here when we broke the day low at that time period. And had I have gotten my entire position out, it would have been a nice break-even trade. I still lost a small amount, but the percent loss ultimately was pretty small. So, you know, I can't get that upset either way. I was interested in shorting it if it were to have done a bounce back, a significant one. It didn't really do it, but I guess it did fade. But not, you know, something I'd ideally want to be trading 47 to 45. That's not good, and the volume isn't there for it. The last time I was talking about AIAD was that potential inverse head and shoulders. I was probably seeing it here, and it did fail that trend line that I had. And I guess the trend line isn't there anymore. Yeah, it's not there anymore, but it did do the inverse head and shoulders. This was it. But look at how sketchy the price action was. It just dried up and it started looking all wicky and ugly. It did hold this 395, I believe, level, and the highest it got to was 41.5, so 395, so just half of 39 to 41. That is just some really bad range to consider a setup. I mean, I guess it did do something, right? And then it broke that, and then it kind of just put up lower highs, and then it kept downtrending, and it went off into the abyss. I never cared about it after, you know, that head and shoulders, not head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders here. Yeah, very weird one. And maybe in theory I could have caught this move, that breakout, but you know, when I saw it, it failed, and then it immediately worked the next candle. I would have went small either way if I were to have taken it, but that was a nice move there. And at no point was I able to short this, and even if I was, if shares were available, it would be just a tiny $5 position because I can't short more than 1,000 shares. PUGE faded a little bit. This can be a morning panic bounce play if it cracks a significant level, maybe like 11.6 for example, but if it looks clean I might consider it another day, but I'd like it to be a nice considerable drop for a future setup. So that's what I have there for that. As for BTZI, this thing eventually caught itself together. It wasn't just bouncing back and forth. If I was a degenerate gambler, I would probably just try trading between the bid and the ask, just wiping out all of my cash in my cash accounts. That would have been so dumb, but yeah, this looks a lot better. It has more volume. It's able to cash itself. I had no interest in shorting it because of how creepy it was, trading back and forth. But if it does a number 6 pattern, I'll consider it. But now I might try to break that level. It all depends on how it's going to start trading tomorrow. That's all I have for today. Nice attempts with NSAV. No success with the SIRC one, but some lessons were learned from that. Could have maybe have done that breakout setup, but I didn't see it when it was happening at the moment with AIAD. PUGE, as for the VWAP higher low thing, too many sellers were on the ask, and it made it not work as well as it could have. Definitely unlike, I think GBHI, I think, or GHBI, I have no clue, something like that the other day. That's all I have for today. Pretty thankful for the lessons. Sucks that I wasn't able to get out of SIRC for a complete break-even trade or a tiny loss. It was more than what I would want it to be, but that's alright. A lot of good lessons once again, and that's all I have for today.